my mother's name, she's there in the audience. So if anybody did hear me tell the story of the macaroni dog and Cheesy in November, she's the veterinarian. So anyway, totally different story. The year was, 2017, there we go, I can say words. And I was sitting on my couch in Tucson, researching things to do for the upcoming trip that my husband and I had to Germany. And there's a lot of things to do in Germany, so that was pretty easy to do. They have castles and museums and all sorts of cool stuff. But I kept coming across mentions for Berlin for this place called Cafe Cinema. And you know, it's just a cafe, honestly. But apparently it's super popular because everybody talks about it. And so I went, thought, okay, look for more stuff. Ended up on TripAdvisor, of course, because you're always going to end up there at some point. And once again, I found the Cafe Cinema. So I clicked on it, and I scrolled down, and in the comments, there was one comment very prominently featured that caught my attention. And it's because of what it said. And it said, to see the steampunk monsters, go behind the Cafe Cinema on Wednesdays and Fridays at 9 p.m. and look for the very bald man. Ask him about dead pigeons and tell him that you want to see the monsters. That was a lot to put in a very small comment on TripAdvisor for a cafe. But I was definitely interested at this point. What caught my attention even more was below that were several other people who had commented, and they said they had followed those instructions exactly and had one of the best adventures of their lives. So, okay, that's going on the list of maybes. And fast forward to that fall, and we were getting ready to go to Germany. I talked to my husband about the things that we might do while we were there. And I know I mentioned this one. I cannot remember if my husband's reaction was, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting, or if it was, are you sure we're not going to get murdered? But it was one or the other, and it didn't fall off the list. So when we went to Germany, we started out in Hamburg. We went and saw the Chocolate Museum. Then we went to Munich. We ate a bunch of pretzels. We saw the Disney Princess Castle. And then we went to Berlin. And in Berlin, we of course saw the Berlin Wall because you can't not do that. And then we went to the East Berlin Museum, which is really fascinating if you ever get the chance. And then on a Wednesday at noon, we found ourselves at the Cafe Cinema. Very recognizable place. And we went in and we had tea. If you ever get a chance to have tea in Germany, it's often like super fresh. It's not dried leaf stuff, it's like fresh stuff and water, and it's really good. I absolutely recommend it. So we had tea, and we went out back because people had said there's a graffiti alley out there. Calling it a graffiti alley was way understating what was there. It was alleys with courtyards, and the entire thing was covered in murals and really great art. Lots of, subversive political stuff as you would expect, and then cartoons and comics and wildlife paintings and celebrities. I mean, it was wild. We took a bunch of pictures and we thought, okay, so the Cafe Cinema is real, the graffiti alley people mentioned is real, maybe the monsters are real too. And so we went and we had the rest of our German day. I don't know what we did, but I'm sure it was German stuff. And then we came back as it was getting dark to the Cafe Cinema, and we had more tea because that was really good. And then we went out back to the alley. And now the alley was full of Germans smoking because it's Europe. And also there was indeed a very tall, very bald guy. And next to him was a sign, and the sign said Monster Cabinet. I thought, okay, that is clearly what TripAdvisor was talking about. So we walked up to the guy and I said, remembering the instructions, do you know anything about dead pigeons? And the guy just looks at me and he goes, and he smiles, and then he reaches under the sign and he pulls out a rubber chicken and he says, I am one. So I thought, okay. And so remembering the instructions, I said, we would like to see the monsters. And he goes, Americans. I don't know why that was important, but it was true. So yes, we were Americans. And he said, €3 each. So we paid our €3, and then he said, I'm going to need you first to go across the alley and go to the bar over there and get 2 drinks each. 2 each. We looked across the alley, and there is a door. It's a metal door and looks very industrial, like the kind that the general public is not supposed to go through. But we had paid our money, so we thought, okay. And we walked across to the door. We opened the door, and there is a very dark hallway behind the door. And I'm sure we're kind of looking at each other and going, yeah, we really might get murdered. But we had paid for the experience. So we walked through the door, and we could kind of hear in the background, you know, this low beat techno music going boom, 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 boom. And there was kind of a light. So we walked down the incredibly dark hallway. We get to where the light is. There's another door. That's where the light's coming from. And open that door, and there is a bar there. It is not a fancy bar. It's the kind of bar that some guys maybe found some black paint and plywood and made in the course of an afternoon. But it is full of people, and there is a bartender and glassware, and above the bar there are metal monster heads mounted, and I thought, this is on theme. And so we went up to the bar together, and the bartender speaking German. My husband speaks German a little bit, but I don't speak it at all. And so we explained that we have just talked to the very bald man, and he sent us in here to get some drinks, and we're gonna see some monsters. And the guy says, Americans. Once again, I don't know why this is important, but it seemed like really important information to these folks. Yes, they were right. I'm pretty sure everybody else in the bar had a German menu, but he pulls out this gigantic one that's in English. And so we start flipping through because it's huge. Somebody's thought of every cocktail they knew and made some more up because there's 300 and there's numbered. So we order some drinks, and they are very delicious and very strong. We drink those, we order some more, also very delicious, very strong. The bartender's watching out for us, and he says, you need to go see the monsters, so go ahead and leave now. We pay the bartender, we go back down the very dark hallway, which is much easier now because we're feeling good. And there is, still out in the alley, the bald guy. But now there are 8 other people around him, and I don't know where these people came from. I don't know if they were in the bar with us and I just failed to notice, or if they had been sent on their own adventures and come back. And I kind of regret not asking. However, he talked to us all, and he said that life in East Berlin had been very boring under the Soviets because there wasn't a lot to do. So people had gone underground and done a lot of, you know, cool art and had parties. And he said, he's gonna take us where the parties happened. So, okay, that's cool. And he walks us over to this little stairway. We go down the stairs, and there's another door. And he opens the door, and behind that door is another dark hallway. But this one is brick and metal and looks like something that is a bomb shelter. It is very different. So all of us are walking behind him, and we're going down the dark hallway, and then all of a sudden, bam! We jump back because there is a gigantic rat. It is huge, it is this big, it's gnashing its teeth at us, and it is made out of metal, and the guy says, you have met your very first monster. And okay, so then a fog starts coming up, and this control panel starts rising up out of the ground, and it looks like something out of the Titan Missile Museum. This is very clearly like military stuff from the 80s, and he says that they have scavenged stuff and they have made themselves a whole series of monsters, and he's gonna show us the monsters. And then the music starts, and it's techno music again, and it is very loud, and it's like pa-pum, pa-pum, wah-wah, pa-pum, pa-pum, wah-wah. And I did not know that it was possible to sing to techno music, but it was, and this guy was doing it in German. So he's walking us down, and then we start seeing monsters, and there's one that's giant lips, and it's sitting here singing along, and it's got eyeballs and ears. There's another one we see, it looks like Jabba the Hutt, except it's wearing a tutu and for some reason doing ballet. We keep going, there are tons and tons of these monsters until we get to a room full of mirrors. And the music stops and it goes quiet, and it's very bright. And the guy says, Now I'm going to show you our greatest creation. In the middle of the room, you cannot miss it, there is this plant. And if you imagine the Venus flytrap plant from Super Mario, it looks like that if it had met The Hills Have Eyes. Because this thing has all this hanging rubber skin coming off of it, and it's got these desiccated leaves. And he says, okay, and then he smacks this big red button, and the lights go dark. And then all of a sudden, the red lights start flashing, and it's flashing red. Music's back, even louder, even stronger. And he's going, dance, dance, dance. And all 10 of us are terrible dancers, but we're trying really awkwardly to dance, but the plant is doing a fantastic job. Its heads are singing along, and it's going and waving its leaves around us. And I will say, at this point, by the time the music stops and the lights come back up, we are very sober, because that was a lot. And I'm thinking, man, I'm so glad I listened to that comment on TripAdvisor. But then he takes and he says, okay, one more thing. And he walks us down the hallway to a cardboard box, and he starts pulling out posters and plushies, and they're all handmade. And he says, like every good experience, this ends in the gift shop. And then he pulls out a t-shirt. And this t-shirt has a very obvious artistic depiction of a vagina on it. And he looks at my husband and he says, you want this shirt? And I can tell that my husband wants this shirt, and I'm thinking, oh God, I don't want to be walking down the street next to this artistic vagina. But then he pulls out some more shirts, and the shirts have monsters on them. And we ask him how much. He only takes cash, of course, and we only have money for one shirt. So because my husband is a very, very nice person, I have proof that I have been to the Monster Cabinet in Germany.